Hey, so today we're going to make a pirate hook. This is Sketchfab, and as you can see on here, here is what a lot of people think a pirate hook might have looked like. This is certainly in popular imagination, and Hollywood certainly thinks they look like this. Yeah, here's another one. Now, if these are $10 and $9 for this, and this is $9, and this is meant to be a toy one, a toy model. So I don't want you guys to have to buy this. Now, one of the concerns I have here is that this is what an actual prosthetic hook consisted of. I don't think we're going to do that. I think we'll just do, let's do this leather area. We'll do a more antique wrought iron thing, or steel. We'll do a steel cap, and then we'll do the hook. So anyway, now that that's done, let me bring in a new Blender project here. So I think that the leather part basically looks like a cylinder. So we're going to go and add mesh cylinder. Now this cylinder, as you guys remember, is gigantic. This is, if I pull out my stuff here, you're going to see the item is 2 feet by 2 feet by 2 feet. Obviously, that's not 2 feet. I think it's more like 6 inches. So let's make it, let go across here, and we'll do, let me go here since we're working in small. I go to my scene properties, and I'm going to my unit system, Imperial, again, because I'm in the United States. I use Imperial. Everywhere else, you're sane and you use centimeters and metric system. I'm going to change this to inches. And now I don't want something that's 24 inches. I want it to be 6 inches. Okay, great. So now it is 6 inches across here. Now I know that my wrist, I actually have a measuring tape here. I know that my arm at this point is 3.5 inches. This is 3.5 inches across. It's hard for me to do it there, but let's just say it's 3.5 inches. So I'm going to make the X and the Y 3.5, 3.5, and 3.5. And then I know that it gets smaller around my wrist and bigger around my thing. So I'm going to tab in here, and I'm going to make this a little smaller. So that's going to be the leather part. We're going to shade auto smooth here. We're going to add a mesh. I'm going to add a UV sphere. I'm going to scale it down. Let's see. I'm going to go GZ. I want this to be smaller here, right? I want it to be essentially lined up here. First of all, I can go in here. Let me turn on X-ray mode here in case you are wondering what's going on. I'm going to hit 1 to go into my orthographic view. And I know I don't need any of these vertices, so I'm just going to delete them. And here we now have a dome. Now, one thing I know is that I want it to be a little rounder here. So I've selected that vertex, just the center one here. Now I'm going to turn on proportional editing, and let's see how big my circle is when I hit G. It's humongous, so I'm going to bring it down. Okay, so here, let's go back to our Captain Hook thing. It's a little beveled here. You can see these are just like, okay. I think that's a good shape. So I'm not going to poke a hole and extrude here. One could do that, but I'm not going to. So let's shade this auto smooth as well. First, let me go into this mode. We'll begin to, sorry, that looks pretty offensive. But let me go to a side mode. I'm going to go to 2 here. I'll go to 1. Now, let me add a curve. So I'm going to add a Bezier curve. I'm going to move it up on the Z axis. I'm going to scale out here. I'm going to scale out. I'm going to do RY90. And because we can't really see it, if I change my view, if I go to 3, you'll see I now have the curve. So GZ, and I'm going to shrink it down, and I'm going to put it here. We basically have our hook form. I'm going to change it in a second. So here I'm going to extrude, and I'm going to turn this like this. Let's look at that hook again. Does it have a taper? Yeah, it's got a slight taper on the end there. You see it comes around, and then it's got a little nudge. So let's go here, and I'm going to make that smaller, and I'm going to make this one smaller too. And I'm going to, let's see, I'm going to subdivide here. Let's subdivide. So I've just added a point. So if I go into 1, I don't see anything. If I go here, this is what the hook will actually be shaped like. So let me move this one here. Let me turn off my proportional editing. You know, I turn it on for one use and then I forget it's on, and then the next time I go to do something, I'm dragging everything all over the screen. Let's move this here. Let's move this here. We'll rotate this, put this here. I'm going to put this here and maybe rotate it slightly. I'm going to make this, I'm going to scale it down, and I'm going to scale, I want to make this approximately the same size. And I think that's a good way of doing it. I'm just going to make this like I would make a circle. And this I'm going to scale up so that I get more of that S shape. Does that look about right? I think that looks about right to me. Let's move it up, GZ. Looks like a pirate sleeve to me. So here is this. I'm going into my, wait, let me get out of the way. I was up here, or maybe I was here on material, or I was here in my scene properties tab. I'm going to go down to my data object properties tab. When you have curves, it'll appear as a curve. If you have a mesh, it'll appear here. I'll show you. If I'm in mesh mode, it's going to be the vertices here that show that I'm working with a mesh. But I'm going to select this guy again. We're going to go in here, and we now have this curve image. And I want to go, it starts out, I have shape. It tells me about the shape. Don't really care about that. Let's go to geometry. Geometry is where I can add a bevel to this. So if I wanted the bevel to be any shape, I could make it any shape. I could use a profile. I could use an object. I could use round. Object, really useful. I use that all the time. You can make an object and it will, the bevel will be the shape of that object. So if you want a really fancy thing, you can absolutely use it. But since this is a hook and it's rounded, we can just do this. So now here is your pirate hook, but that's not what I want the end of the pirate hook to look like. It doesn't look like that. It comes to a point. One of the great things is if I now go here and I change the radius of this point, you can see I get down to 0 radius, and it looks just like a pirate point, but it's not actually 0. That would be crazy. But I think that's pretty good. Let's go into 3 here. So I'm actually going to convert this object to a mesh now. Because then I'll be working with meshes, and you can see it's a nice clean topology there when you convert a beveled curve to a mesh. So, okay, that's pretty short. That's in a short period of time we've gotten to our pirate sleeve here. So now let's make some materials. Let's go in, I'm gonna pull up a material mode here so we can look at the how we do it. You can always create a window by dragging here. If you drag down, you see that little arrow, it's going to take over the whole box. Anyway, I'm going to create a new window down here. I'm going to make it a shader editor. I'm going to select this object. There are no materials here. So let's create a new material. We're just going to make a steel material, like a metal material. Really, in this format, it's insanely easy. So let me, you go to metallic 100% and you make this, like I'd make it, well, do we even need to do that? Let's just make it there. There we go. Okay. So that's pretty good. We'll call this material steel. And now I'm going to select this object and I can just select steel. And so we've got a pretty good hook right here. Okay, and now we need to make the leather material for the sleeve here. So let's create a new material, and I'm just going to call this leather. Now this material is going to be pretty easy. I'm gonna show you how to make a leather material if you don't have one. And by the way, I'm using a normal map I downloaded from somewhere. Let me just show you. I'm going to hit Control-Shift-T to pull it up. Now I don't have a color or a roughness map or anything. I'm just looking for my normal map of leather. Here we go. I've applied it here. You can see it, and it's this sort of cream color. Let's make it dark brown leather. And wow, hey, look, that looks like leather to me. Now, one of the cool things is that when you use node wrangler and you are working with an object. Now, we have not UV unwrapped this object, so we have no idea how big it is, what the size is. But if I wanted to change the overall structure here, I can click here and type 3, and you can see I've scaled it up 3 times. So now it's much more finely grained. But I don't want to do that because if I start changing the scale of a texture in this box here, what happens is that then it also changes the scale of this material everywhere else in the model. So if I have a much larger object that is leather, it's so tiny it'll look like just a single color. So let's not do that. What I would rather do is alter this in its UV editing state. So UV, let's go to UV editing, and we're going to scroll in here. Oh, and here we have we're in solid view, but here now we can see what this looks like here. And I'm going to tab into it. I'm going to select all, and you can see what the scaling is here. So I think this scale is much too big. So let's scale up the object, which makes the texture shrink in relation. And there, that's pretty good, right? I think we've achieved our pirate hook for this short tutorial. Anyway, I hope you guys had a lot of fun today learning how to work with curves and some materials.